you think that it's really important, especially now given the capability set of AI? Do you think it's now even more important than ever that, engineers have that idea of it's a business outcome? Because again, I think oftentimes it can become very, let's call it myopic, right? Where, technology could be separated from the business. But like you said, usually it's enabling some portion of the business. If you don't really connect those dots, you can maybe put yourself a bit at risk or not knowing where that's heading.
Yeah, I very much believe that, right? So there's always room for experimentation and innovation. And I think sometimes business or solutions that drive business problems are driven out of innovation and new ideas. But at the same point, if you're an engineer and you're looking at the skill sets that you're developing, it's how do these new technologies drive some sort of outcome? So if you're doing tech for tech's sake and you're working in a CPG industry or pharmaceutical or financial services, whatever it may be, I think that is not necessarily the best approach, right? If you're in Google or Apple or Microsoft, you're creating and building products. And even with that, though, it's trying to generate something that's going to be sold, right? So look at it from what am I trying to achieve and what I'm developing and designing, but ultimately, if you look at the AI and where that's going and the engineers that are building these new platforms, it's all about how it's going to drive some outcome. If it's cool technology, but nobody's going to use it, it's cool technology that's going to sit on the shelf and nobody's going to use it.
And I guess within that space early in your career, I noticed that you also did your MBA, and I'm guessing you did it simultaneously to while you were working. And so
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could talk about, especially today as you think about it, like the how it helps a student doing it while you're doing work. Is that the way to go that way? And I mean, obviously, there's no wrong answer on that, but just why
Yeah.
you chose to do that path and what you thought you got out of the MBA versus what you already had at the undergrad level.
I think the answer is experience. So for me, having graduated from Syracuse University and then working in New York, I decided to go for a master's at Pace University, which is in downtown Manhattan. And I decided at the point of my career, after having a couple of years of experience, it was a great opportunity to go for a graduate degree because I can apply what I was learning from my real life day to day work and now take a class and take from concept to reality. So when you were an undergrad and you're asked to write a paper or give a point of view, it's usually constrained around what you've learned in school, right? And maybe you've had an internship for a couple of months throughout the summer, but when you're working day to day and you've met so many people with different experiences and you're working on projects and you have different types of assignments and then going to school in the evening, which again, it's difficult, right? I'm not saying it's for everybody. But I would go to work and then I would try to eat a very quick dinner on the road to try to get to class that started in the evening, and I'll come home late at night and work weekends to kind of catch up on things and do school assignments. It was a heavy amount of work to do it, but at the end of the day, for me, I felt like I was able to connect the theory to reality.
Is there any suggestions you have for especially younger people kind of building that listening muscle earlier?
Yeah, so somebody once told me you have two ears and one mouth, and that's for a reason, right? So listen more, try to understand. You don't have to solve everybody's problem as soon as they tell you it. You just need to, um, be able to understand and appreciate. And then I think once you start to do that and just kind of take a step back and say, I don't need to solve every problem at first, and I just maybe need to be an ear for right now, I think that's a great starting point. And then from there, you start to build trust and you start to build a relationship, and then it starts to come together for a team. So listening and is not always the easiest thing for everybody, but it's the really impactful, and those are the best leaders that are hearing and understanding concerns and generating ideas, and then encouraging the team from what they hear.
I guess to wrap us up, are there any particular traits that you look for in hiring younger talent?
Yeah, there's really there's a couple of things. So there's will and skill, right? So you can teach skill. We talked about different trainings and education that I've gone through, and that's expected. We would want people to go for training, but you have to want to be part of something special, and you have to be willing to do not the work, but do I don't know, the commitment to wanting to be great, right? And so I think there's something around that appetite of truly excited about the work and wanting to be part of something. The other part that I look for is I don't need somebody that's just like me. I don't think that's effective. So I think it's better to have people with complementary skills across teams. And sometimes people will go for different job interviews or opportunities, and you may not get it. It may not be because of you. There may be somebody like you though on the team, and maybe they want to have a more rounded team with different types of personalities and skills and so on. So I think there's a will part of it. I think there is ability of working well together, collaboration. I think it's somebody that's innovative and wants to challenge the status quo. So I think if you go down that road of you're great, you're willing to put the work in, you like to work with other people, and you want to challenge the status quo, that's a great person for me to chat with.